Okay, so welcome everyone to the SOFA screenings workshop. We are here from FVASA, Michelle, Snow, and Vic, and I am the technical director. My name is Andrea, and we also have a guest, Andrew, who actually graduated a couple of years ago, and he was part of the effort into putting together what is now known as SOFA screenings in Wegmans. We have this great theater. Obviously, we want to use it to showcase all of our films that we've worked on during the semester. So it's just really exciting to have that space and get to show our films in a cinema, essentially. All right. So what we're going to be talking about today is how to prepare your film for submission. The end of the semester is coming up, so we'll talk about everything you need to be ready to actually submit your film and be present at screenings. We're going to go through a very thorough Tier 1 and Tier 2 overview. So you have two options in how you want to present your film for screenings. You can either choose Tier 1 or Tier 2, and we'll talk about what that means as we go along. And then we'll also go through a calendar so you know what some important dates are, any deadlines, submission deadlines, when screenings are going to start, what you should have ready for any specific date. And we'll go through that at the end as well. And also at the end, we'll have time to go for some questions if anyone needs to ask anything. And even if you have questions after this meeting, you can always email us at fvasa@irt.edu, and we'll try to answer your questions there. And yes, as I said, all of today's information and more is located on our website right now. So that's just fvasa.cad.rt.edu. There's information for all the documentation that we have on any specific formats where you want your film to be shown. And the screenings tab, I have the calendar, important screenings dates, and everything like that. So all of that information that we talk about today is up on the website right now. And there's our email as well if you have any more specific questions that we didn't answer today. So at this point in time, you guys are probably in the post-production stage of completing your film and in the QC and submission stage. So pre-production and production, you've probably already done that. But for now, we're going to talk about what formats you need to keep in mind in making your film and how to QC your film. QC is quality check. We want to make sure that the sound levels are all right. We don't want to blow up anyone's ears or anything like that. And we'll talk about how to actually submit your film so that it gets to where it needs to be. So these are just some of the handouts that we have available on the website right now. There's a screenings checklist. So this is how to prepare for SOFA screenings, very condensed in a nutshell. So if you just want to make sure that you have everything checked off of the list, this is a very good way just to see the whole overview of the process and if you've done all the steps that you need to do to be ready for screenings. We also have a submission and QC policies handout. This includes the calendar, the schedule for when you're able to do QCs if you're attempting to do a Tier 2, and then some submission policies and requirements you must follow if you want to submit anything. So Tier 1 and Tier 2, we'll just have an overview of both of them, and they're two different workflows that you need to do if you choose Tier 1 or Tier 2. But for this slide, all of the films must include closed captions, no matter if you're doing Tier 1 or Tier 2. Everything must be closed caption. They all also must include the SOFA bumper at the start of the film. This doesn't need to be altered at all. You just kind of just insert that in front of your timeline, and you can get that in the SOFATube website. And that link will also be in all of the documentation that we have. And for both of these films as well, tier 1 or tier 2 films, they must adhere to audio loudness specifications. It's super important because your film will not screen if it is not the correct volume. So always QC your films, even if you're doing tier 1 or tier 2, it doesn't matter. They all must adhere to the same audio loudness, and we will not allow your film to screen if it doesn't meet those requirements. All right, so we'll start with tier 1. This is just a little flow chart for tier 1. You will export your film in H.264. It's just a video file. I'm sure you guys are accustomed to exporting in these videos. It's like an MP4 file. There's nothing more to it than that, but we'll go more in depth as we go through this slideshow. For QC, you will QC on your own computer. I know Premiere, if you're working on Premiere or you're working on Avid, they all have audio sound level checks, meters, or something like that. And we'll also go through those specific tools that you can use to actually check your audio loudness, but you can do that from your own computer. Then you'll submit your film through the screenings portal. We'll also show how to do that. And we actually QC it after you QC it yourself as well, just to double check that, you might have missed something at the beginning, but we'll tell you if like, hey, your film actually is too loud. You must resubmit or something like that. So we will actually tell you once you submit that if your film doesn't meet the specs, but it's also just good to know how to QC it on your own so you know it actually is correct. And then after you go through all that, obviously you want to sign up for a screenings time, and that will be in person, and we'll also go through that at the end of this workflow. So tier 1, these are just some of the technical specifications that your film must have if you want to do tier 1. It's HD. You can either do 1920 by 1080 or 1280 by 720. That's just HD. You can only pick your like normal 16 by 9 aspect ratio. Any of these frame rates are fine. Your sound is limited to just stereo. So just like a regular 2-channel. You cannot do surround sound for tier 1. So if you're thinking of doing surround sound, that automatically becomes tier 2. But if you aren't concerned with any of that, then tier 1 is probably your way to go. We usually recommend a tier 1 for most like freshman films or production 1 or 2 films. But if you want to go, if you're more advanced, if you're like a senior or a junior who wants to show off like a workshop film or something like that, then you might want to go towards tier 2 instead. As I mentioned before, the container, it's just an MP4 file for tier 1, very simple to export from either Premiere. And these are just some more technical specifications. I don't want to get too detailed because you don't need to know that much information as of now. If you have any specific questions on this, obviously you can email us or ask at the end of the presentation. But we're going to go on to exporting. So please make sure to just watch your entire film before you export. Even if you're sitting down editing it and you think everything is correct, just watch it one more time, because that's how if something is wrong, that's how you're able to look at it. So watch your entire film one last time before you click export. And then we have some presets actually available to you on the lab machines. I'll make sure of this when I go back to the labs, but all of these presets are on the SOFA and Magic labs. They contain the correct export settings already there set for you. They're in Premiere, After Effects, and the meeting encoder. Just double check the settings. And the way you can do this is in our documentation on the website. It actually tells you what specific settings are supposed to be on the presets. So just make sure they match. They should match though, and I'll make sure of that. So the only thing you need to do is, I think the actual presets like tier 1, and then if you choose to do like 1080 or like 720p. You can either, depends on which resolution you want, but you can choose the one that's right for you. But that should be about it. Just use the preset and then export, and you will have your MP4 file ready. And then the thing that we mentioned about audio loudness, these are the specs to hit. It's -3 decibels for like the max peak. So this is like the one, if you have any like sound effects, the loudest sound effect you have should not go above -3. And for your integrated loudness, which is your entire film, it should be no more than -27 ±2. So you have a little leeway on how loud it is, but it should definitely not go above that. And as I mentioned before, there is penalty if you do not meet spec. If it's too late in the process and you can't resubmit and your film does not meet those requirements, we are actually allowed to just bring down the fader level in the theater so that we don't hurt anyone's ears or anything like that. And obviously, again, the documentation is there in our website to help you know how to check the audio. And we also have some tutorials as well, YouTube tutorials on our website to do that as well. So not just like documents, but videos as well. For Pro Tools users, there is 2 plugins and that you might find helpful. There's Isotope Insight, and it's good for like just monitoring and analyzing the program loudness and peak. And then another plugin is the Isotope Loudness Control. And it's good for hard conforming your final mix to those the specs we want you to hit. If you're working on Premiere, Premiere also has a audio meter called the Loudness Radar, and it will tell you the integrated loudness, and you can see if it goes above or how much below -27. And ideally you want to hit -27 or below that. So just make sure that you have those meters pulled up, like if you're using Pro Tools or Premiere, they both have things you can use to monitor the audio. So just make sure you do that before submitting. All right, and for quality control, as I mentioned before, you can do it on your own computer. Just check your content, watch your film over again, check that it was encoded properly, and then just make sure it follows all the requirements we talked about before. So how do you submit? You submit your film through the screenings portal. This link right here, and these slides are also going to be on the website. So if you ever need that link, it is there. So it's actually just going through there, making a new submission, and the page will actually take you step by step, everything you need to do there. So that's pretty self-explanatory. After you submit your film through that portal and your film is on the server, it actually gives you, it emails you a little receipt or a little ticket, and you can print that out and take it with you to come in person to the sign-up table. And as for how to like name your films, this is a convention we want you guys to use. So you use your last name, film name, and then month, day, year, and .mp4 for tier 1. So please make sure that your film is named this, because it can be really hard to, you know, if something is named final film something, it's really hard to like know whose film that is. So just make sure you label your film correctly. As I mentioned before, we actually do a QC ourselves to just make sure that you did the right audio loudness. If it passes, you're all set. You don't have to resubmit again. But if it fails, depending on how late it is in the process, you can fix and resubmit. Or if the screenings deadline has passed already, you might have to ask for permission to resubmit, because at that point it would be considered a late film. And again, just check the tier 1 QC and submission chart for those resubmission policies. All right. So before I go on to tier 2, does anyone have any questions about the tier 1 process? I see there's something in the chat. Thea, would we just be able to present our ticket on our phone instead of printing it out? I think, I don't know, Andrew, because I haven't done one.
I think so. I think it's just kind of a thing we did in the past where they collected the papers, but we'll just talk to FVASA this year and find out. I'm sure it might not be a problem, but we'll see.
Okay. Yeah, it's like all of our first times doing in-person screenings, so everything is just a little bit different. But yeah, we will talk and make sure that showing it in person, I mean, showing it on your phone is correct. And we can do that, but we will email you guys if that is true. All right, so tier 2. So tier 2 is a little bit more complicated because you are building a DCP, a digital sign-out package, which is what actual movie theaters use to show their films. So it's really good that you guys are learning this because it is what is used in the industry today. The first step in creating your DCP is creating your digital source master files. So you're going to have a picture DSM, which is just your film, no audio, just the film DSM. And then you also have your audio DSM, which is just, as the name suggests, your audio. With these two digital source master files, you will be able to package them through a software called DCPoMatic that is also in all the lab machines. And we also have presets for that, so you don't have to worry too much about the settings. That packages your 2 picture and audio DSMs into a DCP. Another thing you do have to do for tier 2 is create what is known as a trim video file. So this is essentially just a tier 1 version of your tier 2 file. And the only reason that we ask for this is because we can't put DCPs into SofaTube. And as you know, SofaTube is like the archiving website for all of the SOFA films. So after screenings, everything is put into SofaTube, and that's kept as the archive. So because we can't put DCPs into SofaTube, we just need like a video file from you of the same film just to put onto SofaTube so that your film is archived properly. You QC in the Wegmans Theater. So after you submit your film, the only way you'll be able to QC is through signing up for a QC time. And we'll go over the calendar as well and when those times and dates are. But yeah, either me or someone else will be in the theater helping load your film into projector and then actually projecting it in the theater. And then you can just sit and listen to it, make sure it's what you want to screen. And that will happen in those QC times we'll go over at the end when I show the calendar. And once you QC and you think everything is good, then you go ahead and sign up for screenings time, just like tier 1. It's the same process for signing up for screenings time. It's in person as well. So for tier 2, you have the option of going higher resolution. You can either do 2K or 4K, and you can choose from 2 different aspect ratios. One is called flat and one is called scope. Scope is a very wide aspect ratio, and that theater actually the curtains move a little further so that it can accommodate those wide aspect ratio. Most people, if they want to go to tier 2, go with the flat option because it's very similar to the resolution for HD. It's 1998 by 1080. So you don't worry about having your film look super different as if it was like that 16:9 aspect ratio. You just get the benefit of having a higher resolution, and you can do 2K or 4K as I mentioned. Your frame rate, you must be, for DCI specifications, it must be either 24 or 25, 30, or 48, like even numbers. Well, not even numbers, but not like 29.97 or things like that. And that's because DCPoMatic actually wants that DCI specification. So if you shot in like 29.97 and you're like, oh no, I can't do tier 2, it's perfectly fine. You can just adjust your timeline when you export that your picture DSM to 24 instead. So that's just part of the post process. It doesn't matter if you didn't shoot in that frame rate when you started. For sound, you can either do stereo like tier 1, but the benefit is for tier 2, you can do 5.1 or 7.1 surround sound. As mentioned before, the format, essentially you're creating a DCP, and don't forget about also submitting that video trim file. And then I won't go almost too much in depth into the color bit and gamma stuff, but if you're interested, just ask us questions. But for now, we'll just move on from that. So how do you create the DCP? It's a two-step process packed with DCPoMatic, again, which is the software used to actually create this DCP. It's not just a single file, it's just a collection of files, essentially it's just a folder that you will get back. So make sure to have enough space for that in your hard drive or anything like that, because it can get pretty big. The two like ingredients you need to create your DCP are, again, your digital source master, which is just your picture, and then one for your sound. So how do you export your two digital source master files? So once again, please watch your film, make sure it is what you want to export. It's the easiest way to just QC and check for mistakes. Please export your picture and audio separately, but also make sure that they are synchronized. So if your picture has like 10 seconds of black at the end and your audio doesn't, it will cause a problem when DCPoMatic tries to package them, because they will not be synchronized correctly, or it'll give you an error. So just make sure they are synchronized, and that will just help you not have any problems as you go into the process. So in order, you have two options to export your DSM for picture. So there's either the TIFF, and TIFF means that it's just an image sequence, meaning that for each frame in your film, it will have like an actual image. This is the highest quality, and it gives you the least, it's uncompressed, so there's no compression at all, which is really good if you're very concerned about your color. But the only downside to this is that the file is very, very large. So just make sure you have enough space for that, or like processing power if you're not doing it in a lab computer for some reason. Just keep that in mind, that the TIFF, if you export as a TIFF, it will be very large and probably take quite a while. The other option is the DNxHR codec. This is not like a TIFF where it's an image sequence, it's also just a single file. But because of this, it is compressed, so you will lose some quality if you choose to go with that. The benefit to that is that it will be a smaller file, so you don't need to wait as long, and it'll just be easier to move around, I guess, if you need to.
And just to interject real quick, even though you said that it's a little less quality comparatively to TIFF, you're really not going to see much. I would personally recommend the DNX option, because at the end of the day, it's going to be a lot easier for you to manage in terms of storage space and time.
Yeah, if you're running like really late and into the night and you just want to export your film, then yeah, that's a good option to choose.
Yeah, it's happened before where people have done the TIFFs like that, and it's they cut it to the wire.
Yeah, also don't begin exporting like on submission deadline date. Like that is just very, not like, it's like very anxiety inducing for you. So we just don't want you to just be worried about things. Just start this process early so you do have enough time to submit your film and get it done early So you don't have to worry about missing the deadline or anything like that. And then
I have a quick
yes.
I have a quick clarifying question for the like scope versus flat. If you're doing scope, for instance, do you actually need the video file to be that resolution, or would it crop a like if you did bars on a or blanking on a video file to get that or that frame aspect ratio? Would you still have to export it at that exact resolution?
It's kind of recommended that whatever the DSM file that you export for your picture is in the right resolution for your DCP, so that there isn't any extra conversion going on in DCPoMatic. That's just the recommended version. You can put whatever you want inside of that container as long as the final one is that size. If you do end up exporting your picture out of Premiere or Resolve or whatever, and it's not the right resolution, and you're like, oh shoot, I don't have time, I still need to package this DCP, it will do an upscale. There's settings in there for you to stretch or fit it to the way you want it, so you'll have to do that on your own. But it's just recommended that you try to export your DSM in the right resolution for your DCP so that you don't have to worry about it down the line.
And there's also an Adobe preset for that is on the lab machines as well for tier 2. So you don't have to worry about going into all those settings and changing everything. There's a preset for scope or flat, and there's a preset for 2K or 4K. So all those like combinations are there for you. So DCPoMatic, the software used to package your DCPs. So just have your digital source master files ready, and there is documentation, step-by-step documentation on how to use DCPoMatic, which has been also updated for anyone who's doing 7.1 surround sound. So just follow that. It is on our website, and it also has templates for any tier 2 format. When you complete your DCP and you have it done, I think there's a way to send it to the server from DCPoMatic. So that's how you will send it to us automatically. And then it's also just good to have a copy to keep for yourself, just so you don't have to like repackage the whole thing again if you need a copy. So just save 2 copies.
Yep, just to confirm, if you use one of the templates in DCPoMatic, it's set up so that once it's done packaging, it'll just send it right to us. So if you're using the template, you'll be good to go. If anything, just email us to double check, and we'll find a different way for you to send it to us. But as long as you use one of those templates, you should be good.
Yeah, and if you're concerned if you didn't submit it or not, just email us. Or if you think it's submitted, but it's actually not, when you go in to schedule your QC and we don't see your file there, we'll just tell you like, hey, we didn't receive your file yet. You're scheduled to QC soon. Could you try to submit it? Or if you have trouble, we'll help you submit it that way. So as I mentioned before, even after you package your DCP and everything and turn in that for tier 2, there's also an extra step, which is providing your trim file. As I mentioned before, DCP doesn't work on SofaTube, so you need to create a video version of your film. And it's pretty simple. You can use the same digital source master files used to create your DCP to create that trim file. So just use the tier 1 templates. It's the easiest way to just export that, and just also make sure to QC it on your computer, follow the same audio requirements that tier 1 follows, and it should all be good.
For those of you who are doing a surround sound mix in tier 2, just note that when you do that trim file, your audio does have to be a stereo fold down. You do have to fold everything back down to stereo for that file.
So for tier 2 QC, you're going to QC in the Wegmans Theater, and we'll be there to help you. So when your DCP submits through DCPoMatic automatically, we'll have that. So when you come in and sign up for your QC time, there's a sign up sheet on our website in the screenings tab. So just fill that out whenever you want to have your QC, and then show up at the theater at that time. Bring your submission receipt so that we know like the exact film's details, and we'll do your QC there and we'll tell you if it passes or fails. And depending on if it fails, then you can go ahead and make your changes and then resubmit. Depending on when you do your QC, we may or may not be able to do a second QC in the theater. So just keep that in mind, that if you do your QC in the earlier days before screenings deadline, that you might have a chance to be able to do a second QC. But if you QC like on the last day, then unfortunately we can't guarantee that you'll have a second QC, because then by then it'll be like too late. So for submission, if you go into QC and it passes, then you're all set. You don't have to resubmit anything again. Just make sure you sign up for screenings time in person. But if your QC fails, be sure to just fix it and resubmit. And as I mentioned before, depending on when you do your first QC, you may or may not be able to get a second QC. So just keep that in mind, and check the Tier 2 QC submission chart for any policies, resubmission policies, because if it's past the deadline, you need to ask again for permission to resubmit, because it will be technically late film. So we're not really able to help you there. You're gonna have to talk to, I don't know, Andrew, if you're like, remember who it is they have to talk to if they have like a late submission.
If they have a late submission, typically you'll email us, but it will have to go through the faculty. David's usually the one who kind of handles it, but it kind of depends on if you have an advisor or not, if you're a senior for that kind of project. But at that point, we'll probably know, and people who are working with you on your film will know that you've submitted late, and by that time you'll be talking with the right people.
All right, one last thing is about captioning. Again, captions are required for all films, no matter if you go to Tier 1 or Tier 2 way. In our website, we actually have captioning tutorials, and those are also found on our YouTube channel. So if this is your first time trying to caption a video, go to those because they're super helpful. I know Premiere recently updated its captioning, so it might be just good to check out even if you already knew how to do it on previous versions. Currently, you will need open captions or burned in captions. We currently don't really have a workflow for closed captions. So you will need to like burn in the captions into your picture. So this is probably the most important thing of this whole slideshow, is just the deadlines, the times, the dates, and the whole schedule for basically until the end of the semester. So screenings, well, not screenings, but the submission for submitting anything of your films and SofaTube opens at 8 a.m. on Monday. So that's next Monday before Thanksgiving break. So if anyone is close to being done with your film, you are welcome to submit it anytime after 8 a.m. on that Monday. Then obviously we have Thanksgiving break. And then when we get back, QC will start for Tier 2. QC will start on a Tuesday. And then we also have spots on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So that's for Tier 2. You'll be allowed to sign up on those dates for QC. Then the submission deadline for everyone is at 10 p.m. on Monday, December 6th. So if you submit after that, your film will be considered late. So keep that in mind. After that, we have 2 days for just us to like prep screenings and everything like that. And then screenings will officially start on Thursday, December 9th. We plan on starting at 10 a.m., but that might change, but that is what it is for now. And then for I forgot to mention this before, but we will also have a just virtual day. And this will be for freshman films and also class reels. So if you're a freshman, your film will actually be screened over YouTube. It'll be streamed essentially, which is what we had to do for the past, I think, year because of COVID and everything like that. We have to do things virtual, but we'll be doing that just to speed things up because we actually found it was very good to have that outside audience when people who could come in who weren't like in the area, for people just to, it's just very easy to just hop in and tune in to the stream. You don't even have to be in person, and it just gives you guys more feedback as well because more people will be watching your film. And then we're just gonna have that one virtual day and everything else will be in person.
And another thing to add, just with the schedule and all of that, the film submission deadline online is December 6th at 10 p.m. And you would take that submission receipt to us in person on December 6th, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. We will be near our office in the basement of Gannett, across from the cage if you guys haven't been to our office before, and you'll sign up with us there in person.
Yeah, so that's how you guys will be able to sign up for a screenings time in person. And I think, yeah, that will be all. Remember, everything that we've talked about is on our website right now. These two tabs, documentation, is where you find all technical specs and step-by-step instructions on how to do things. If you go to the screenings tab, we have that calendar I just showed you, and more information about like how to submit for screenings and things like that. And as always, here's our email. If you have any questions after this meeting that just come up, feel free to just email us. So now, does anyone have any questions about anything really related to screenings?
Signups would be December 6th, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Yeah,
In
it'll
person.
be it's the same day as the submissions deadline. And it's also first come, first serve. The signups, okay, so the signups are for signing up when your film will be screening. So you know how there's like several days for screenings and times as well. So the sign up is for when you want your film to actually screen.
The freshman guidelines for attending screenings is based off of what your professors are asking for. I know I had to attend certain amounts of screenings based off of their guidelines, so you should ask your individual professor for that.
It's also just good to attend screenings in general because you want to see what people have been working on. Watching films is just pretty fun to be in. So yeah, the recording of this workshop is actually going to get uploaded to your YouTube channel, and we actually can email you that link. So it's just going to be easy to access.
But yeah, you should definitely go to screenings. It's really fun getting together with the community and being there and supporting everyone. It's really an awesome time.
Also, this is going to be our first screenings back, which if you have only been online so far, it's great to see the energy in everyone and spend time with your peers and everything. So can't recommend going to screenings enough. It's super fun. And you learn from your peers and everything.
Oh yeah, so we're bringing back filler content for screenings. I'm sure some of you guys saw the email earlier. I just saw the message in the chat, which made me bring it up now. But we're gonna have filler content if we have time for it in screenings this year, where you're able to submit a video 2 minutes or less. That could be a sketch or something. A few years ago, someone did the art of Foley, which was really fun, and it just kind of given insight to behind the scenes and just more of our community. And basically, if you guys do that, you would do the normal submission process and submit it in the filler folder, I believe. Do you want to talk a little bit about the submission process for filler content?
Yeah, it's just on the same server that you submit screenings, but there's a little folder. It depends if you're doing it like online, because there's like the cloud, CAD.cloud. I forget the actual name of it, but you can either do it like remotely, or you can like go into the server if you're doing a lab computer. And then if you go into there, there's just going to be a folder called filler, and then just make sure just put it into that folder.
And for filler content, there's no guarantee of when or if it'll be used. But if you do submit filler content via the online submission, make sure you email us to let us know the name of your film and when you submitted it, so we're able to connect the two. If you don't email us, then we won't really know it's there, since we get so many submissions.
Also, Ricky already said this, but in case you don't remember the actual difference, the actual directions, there's written directions in the email we sent out today. And filler is things that normally wouldn't screen. So something you made on your own, or like with friends or in a personal time, basically something not for a class. So it can be something like the art of Foley and teach people about something that's related to film, or it could just be like a fun sketch, or I think Maddie and Carson did like ads for Sofa or something like that. It could be like something fun or something you're passionate about that you just want to share with the community type of thing.
If you check the chat, Arts of Foley, it was sent in the chat a link to it. So it's really fun. You should check it out. It's a great example of filler content.
Also, you'll notice that once you're in screenings and you're sitting there through a lot of films, it definitely helps break up the day and put some energy back in the room to get you hyped up for the next few films.
Are there any more questions on any technical specifications or like anything that we talked about? Yeah, the filler should meet the same requirements as tier 1. Yeah, definitely. That's a good thing to point out. And yeah, the in-person screenings are open to anyone who wishes to attend.
Yeah, thank you everyone for coming. If you have any additional questions, feel free to email us, FVASA@rit.edu, and we'll get back to you.